Okay, in this video I'd like to talk about if and if error. Now first I want to talk about if error, because it's really a nice to have. It's not something that you use all the time, but if you're creating a spreadsheet for like a presentation or for business or something, it's a good idea to be able to format it in this way. So as you remember, if we type equals and then if we type if, we get both of these. We get if and if error. So we're going to look at if error first. So we can read this text and see what it says to see if we can kind of figure out how it works. So it says if error test value. If the argument is an error and the second argument is null, then a blank will be returned. If the first argument is an error and the second argument is not null, then the second argument will be returned. If the first argument is not an error, then it will be returned. Well, that's about clear as mud, isn't it? Basically what it's saying is, I'm going to say if this first value is an error, then I'm going to return the second value. If I don't have a second value, I'm just going to return a 0. If the first value is not an error, then I'm going to return that first value. So let's see how that works. So if I type if error b1 and then nothing, I get 234 because that's what's in b1. It's not actually an error. Now if I change it from 234 to something that we know is going to be an error, like say equals 23 over 0, we have divide by 0. Now this is blank, there's just nothing there. Now what happens if, yes, I know it's a divide by 0 error, I did it on purpose. Now if we put a comma in here and supply a second value, say cake, then that's what's returned. Now if we fix this, if we make it say 23 over 500, then we get a value. If we make this just something normal, like pi, then that's what's returned. If we say put pi in there instead, well, it returns pi. So that's basically the essence of if error. So where this is really useful is if you're doing a lot of calculations with, maybe you're doing work on something where there won't always be values. Like on the grade predictor I showed you guys last week, a lot of those would return 0, and if I didn't have if error, then we would end up with a problem. So I'd like to talk about if for a little bit. So we go equals if, and then we get this description. It says if test, comma, then value, comma, otherwise value. So it says specifies a logical test to be performed. Test is any value or expression that could be true or false. Then value is the value that is returned if the logical case is true, otherwise the value optional is false. So what does that mean? So we're going to just type in if a1, comma, and we're just going to put then value, comma, else value, comma, parenthesis, equals. It says then value because a1 is true. There's something there. If I put a 0, it's still true. If I type false, it's still true because basically it's just looking to see that there's something there. Now what if there's an error, you ask? Let's see. Error. It returns error because that is still true. Let's fix that. Now let's make it something that is maybe not true. If a1 is greater than 100, else value. So now if I change this, 101, then value. Well, that's fantastic, you say, but where is that useful? Well, you can do things like, say, if a1 is greater than or equal to 100, then return an a, else return b. So now you have an a. Now if you put 100, you have an a. If you put 99, it goes to a B. And of course that's not going to be true because if you have a 10, that's probably not a B in a class. But you can see how that's useful. Basically you're using some logic to say, okay, if I have this value, then return this other value. If I have, or otherwise return something else. This is kind of the beginnings of computer programming, and that's honestly the main reason why I wanted to show it to you here. This, along with if error, not really necessary. I was originally going to have these on the quiz. They maybe are a little bit more complicated than is nice. So we're going to come back to these later. We'll probably cover them a little bit more in depth next week, but I wanted to, or week after next, I should say. But I wanted to give you kind of a quick preview of those.